Welcome to Relationship Bites with Wendy Ologe podcast. Relationship Bite is a platform for everything relationship. Mother-child relationship, father-daughter, siblings, sister-in-laws, parents-in-laws, everything you need to know about relationship. It is said that one of the most important needs of human is belonging. It simply means that relationship is as important as being human. I will be taking you on a journey of everything relationship. Join me, Wendy Ologe, every fortnight as we explore the intricacies of different forms of relationship. The positives, the negatives, the wins, the losses, the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything else in between. And most importantly, the lessons we will learn from them. Relationship Bite with Wendy Ologe is your plug for real life experiences on diverse relationships and how we can maximize these relationships for the best.
Hello everyone, this is Relationship Bites with Wendy Ologe, and guess who is our guest on the show today? My name is Joy Eshimokai on Relationship Bites with Wendy Ologe, and our guest for today is the one and only Wendy Ologe. So who is Wendy Ologe?
Thank you so much, Joy. It's so interesting because Joy has also been a guest on the Relationship Bite. You remember when we did something? You can find out the episode on widowhood. It was such an amazing, session. So thank you so much, Joy. Joy is my friend, my sister, and Joy is the world best MC.
Yeah, say it.
So yes, Joy is the one interviewing me today. Such an honor, and I'm so excited. So Wendy Ologe is Wendy Ologe. I'm a parent coach, and I like to say that I am arguably the foremost parent coach in Africa.
Say it, shout it.
And yes, I'm here for you to interview me, and I'm here listening. Thank you.
Okay. So, next question on today's podcast is, could you please take us on a journey, just a short journey through your childhood? So, who was Wendy Ologe as a child? I really want to know this.
Oh, interestingly, okay, so I was that child who would lead at every point in time.
Of course.
I remember that in primary school, I was a head girl. I remember that in secondary school, I was a prefect. And I remember that in the university, I was an SUG officer.
Why am I not surprised? So
growing up, I had a father who shares the same kind of temperament with me. So, of course, my father would always tell me that I had leadership qualities. He didn't stop that there. One of the things I know that my dad did was to push me. So he goes like, you can do this. You can actually become this. You can actually... So I was that child that was really loved. Also, my dad loves me. In fact, a few days ago, it was my birthday when he called me, and he said to me, he said, "Oh, I've really missed seeing your pictures on Facebook. I just love to see you." So my dad just loves to see me, you know. So yes, if there's anything like crushing on a child, I think my dad crushes on me as a child. Really.
Oh wow! So can we say you're the favorite child?
Yes, I can actually say that.
Wow.
Yes, I can actually say that, and my siblings say that a lot, and I know that. If my siblings are going to listen to this podcast, and they're going to come, to the room and say, yes, you actually said it to the world. And yes, it was obvious. Wow. So that's how I grew up. And I had a mom who wasn't as boisterous as I am, and my dad. So I deferred to my dad because my dad was that person who was a social animal. It was that person who was full of life and all of that, and just like me. So mommy is calmer, even though that there's something about my mom that I really love. Mommy is calmer, wouldn't, yell, wouldn't, scream. I actually tell people that I didn't have parents. I didn't have a mother who yelled. I've never heard that yell before, interestingly. And maybe that's one of the reasons why I believe that you can raise a child without having yelling. To, yell and all of that. So that's what my childhood was like. And I have 4 siblings, and I'm a middle child. So I have 2 older ones and 2 younger ones.
I'm not going to digress, but what's that middle child syndrome you told me about?
Yes, there's a middle child syndrome thing where the middle child is actually some sort of neglected. But interestingly for me, it wasn't
obviously.
Like that.
So Wendy Ologe, please, can you take us on, for people who are just meeting you for the first time, can you take us on a ride to the start of the transformational work you do at the Intentional Parents Academy?
So, by the first year in my marriage, we got an opportunity to parent a teenager. And it was a total disaster. Because while I thought I knew how to parent anybody, I didn't know that I had no inkling on what to do. I usually like to say that I failed woefully at it. Oh, wow. So I failed at parenting that child, and that was when I realized that there must be something that people have done or are doing, to do it better. I was parenting the same way that I saw a lot of people parented. Now, while my mom didn't yell, my father was a yeller. And I hated the fact that my father was a yeller. Do you know what?
Why?
When I started in parenting, I became a yeller.
Natural.
I started just, yelling and all of that. And I didn't want that. It was a particular part of my dad I never wanted to pick up. And I saw myself doing the same thing that made me feel bad, so I started on a journey to learning. And one of the things that I usually like to say is that we made magic raising our foster daughter. Serious magic, because raising a teenager that eventually have become an adult and it's doing so amazing. By the time our foster daughter went for youth service and was awarded being the first copper in the state, and nationally and all of that, it was so heartwarming to see that girl that we thought had so many times when we meet a teenager or when you meet a child that you're just raising, everything you see is on the negative, we lie, this child and all of that. It was so interesting to see that there are proven principles to actually make things different.
I remember what you always say, Wendy. Parenting is not about your child.
It is about you.
It's about you.
In fact, that quote was a quote that was given to me specifically to me, and I started to use it. And anytime I do something, and my husband turns and says to me, "Parenting is about you," I get mad.
Not your child.
I get mad at that quote. It was my quote. But I get mad at it. I had a problem hearing it. So when parents get angry when I say
you understand.
I feel it. I understand where they're coming from.
Yes.
The first time you hear it, you're like, what is she talking about?
And not my child.
And not my child? What is she talking about?
Making me yell.
Exactly. So by the time I started to understand, some of those things, I had to sit. It took me time. And that's why I tell parents that it takes time for you to actually make any change, to actually be able to make any difference.
And it needs to start from you.
It needs to start from you. And it was me. I changed. My foster daughter didn't change. And the moment I changed, then I started seeing the change. And everything she does, you just say, your child is interested in pleasing you. I don't think my foster daughter is so interested in pleasing me that, if just when you do the right thing, the child will not have the mindset to do what is not right. But many of the times we are constantly, looking at the child instead of looking at ourselves. So I was the one that changed. I worked on my emotions. I worked on what I thought was parenting. I changed, not the children. And of course, by the time I started raising my own biological children, it was like a walk in the park. And of course, by the time I remember that my friends, a team particularly would say, you know what you're doing so well. You've done so. Can you teach us what you're doing?
Teach us.
And at that time, I realized that quite a number of people actually do not know. I also in the same kind of shoes that I was some years back. And of course, that was the birth of the Intentional Parents Academy. And then my husband, the governor, would always say, you're called to give something to the world. Why are you hiding it away? And that was, me flying into the world and saying, you know what? This narrative is valid.
Yes.
And we're going to give it to the world.
Oh, yes. And you are doing exactly that. And I want to say I'm super proud of you. So what is your daily routine that has contributed to this version of Wendy Ologe? 3.7, birthday girl.
Okay, yes. So yes, I said that I've been upgraded to a 3.7 model of Wendy Ologe after my birthday on the 10th of March. And one of the things that over the years I've been able to do when it comes to a daily system, that have been been very contributory to what it is that I've become, is having sound work ethics, having valuable relationships, and having a very growing spiritual life. And one of the things that I have learned is that you don't become better than the people. Your being better is about the people you meet, it's about the books you read, it's about how you connect with your God. And one of the things I would learn in this last 1 year is how God dealt with me, how God spoke to me, how God related to me. So it was me. And once I was able to crack that code, it changed everything. I remember my friend NK saying, there was something that happened to you in this last 1 year. I don't know what it is, but there was something. I know what it is. I just knew that there was, a connection that was so different. And again, particularly being intentional about the network of friends that I have built over the years. I've intentionally built my relationships to be more solid. I've put in work. Not just in my work, right? So in the work about my relationships. So I have relationships now that are better than it ever was. Relationships that I can sit back today and I say, oh yes, I got this person and all of that. So I think I have become more intentional about the other parts of my life that isn't just about work. And of course, having a strong work ethics, one of the things that I know and I've realized is that TIP isn't about me. So I tell my team and I say, TIP is bigger than a Wendy Ologe. TIP is massive. So when I work in TIP, I see myself as just a piece inside TIP. So I work, the structure we've been able to build in TIP I'm just a part. TIP is going to move on even if I'm not there. There are many times where I've been engaged and everything is running like, you would not know what's happening. So that's one of the things I've actually made a difference in this past 1 year.
Oh, wow. Wendy, I think you should build a template on structure. I don't know. Maybe write a book on structure. You're a pro at building structures. You're a phenomenon. And so this takes me to my next question, which is, what are the 5 values and life principles that you live by and would love to share with our audience today?
Oh, interesting. I'm going to say this and you're going to laugh. Even Joy is going to laugh. It's not that hard.
It's not that
hard. That's number 1. One of the things I have imbibed over the years is to look at issues and tell myself,
it's not that hard.
So I have lived with this principle for a while now and it has helped me. When I see challenges, I look at it, I said, it can't be that hard. So we dive in right in it. And then we move at it. So even when it's hard, I've already told my brain that it's not hard. So my brain aligns to what it is that I've spoken to myself. That's one of my greatest principles.
Number 1.
Number 2, gratitude. So I've learned to be grateful for everything that happens. Now, one of the things that happens to us is that we think that gratitude is about the positives. No, gratitude is also in the negatives. So even when there's adversity, I have learned to be thankful in adversity. So I've learned to be able to see things going wrong and I'm grateful at the same time. I've learned to be able to see my team making a mess and I'm grateful that I have a team. I've been able to see things go wrong practically and I say, I'm so grateful that this is like this and it's like this. It has also helped me in my parenting journey. I look at my children sometimes, I just imbibe the attitude of gratitude. So my husband and I would just look at the twins and say, Lord, we're just grateful.
Thank you.
Even when there's something messy. Sometimes we see them actually bickering as siblings, and we look at ourselves and we say, God, we are grateful. We are grateful that we won't have children who can bicker in the season. It's something that that has turned around a lot of things that I see the other way around. So many of the times you see, oh, your child is not answering you, or the child is making noise, and I say, what is wrong with you? I don't want you to go. No, we turn it to something to be grateful for. So we tell ourselves, we're so grateful that these children are even in the house. We're so grateful that these children are we even have children who can fight, and settle on their own. So sometimes we come home and there's something that, it's happening. And I remember the other day, a fair had asked Ayo, so are you okay? Why will you? Ayo said, I'm very okay. How about you? My husband and I were practically on the floor, laughing. It was such a moment for us. It was such, so we don't get angry at the negatives that we see. We look at it and then we convert it to, being grateful for life. One of that value that I would say, number three is the place of humility. Over the years, the place of meekness. God took me through reading a book called The Leadership Principles of Prophet Moses. That book was written by Matthew Ashimole. That book showed me why God needed to take Moses through the ranks of humility. And while I read that book, I realized that there's nobody who was made great in the scriptures without being brought down to the place of humility. And for every time that, it has taught me something. For every time that you would think that there's a success story about TIP, or maybe somebody shared the testimony and all of, sometimes I'm crying at the testimony that's shared. And, when I say it, instead of feeling, what? I am the Wendy Ologe, I actually feel very humbled. As in, I feel like nothing in those moments. I'm like asking myself, hey, this tiny little girl, this is you. As in, this is you, ma. And it brings me to that scripture where God says that he uses, the things that do not matter, the foolish things of the world, to actually confirm the wise. And I look at myself and I say, yes, this is God at work. So humility is one of the values that I've seen. I remember somebody entering my office and saying, the way you play with your colleagues, that's, they are my staff. I should have expected that, they're not supposed to get into your office and all of that. I said, well, when we're serious, we're serious. When we want to work, we work. And that's one of the things that had helped me. Another principle that have helped me over the years is relationship. Relationship that matter. My father taught me about valuable relationship. My father is a man that was made by relationship. My father was just an ordinary teacher, yet when you meet him, you will wonder how he was able to do a lot of the things he did in life. So many of the times I look at him, I'm like, this guy was just a principal, but when you meet him, his mates can't see his back. Now, one of the things he told me was that relationships made him. My father had access to the government house, he had access to the Archbishop of Wendy, he had access everywhere. So he was able to access where people at his level couldn't access, because he understood the place relationship played. My father served in Ibarodo. You can imagine that the family he lived in their house still have a connection to us. They still come to our house to visit us in Owerri, all the way. And there was no telephone in those times. So my father was a man who understood that the people you meet in life, these are the things that will, eventually make you. And that's one thing that my story is about. I have, the people I met in USID, the people I met in Zenith Bank. When I started TIP, the people I had in Zenith Bank that were all over the states. We had 36 states and we had pick-up points in every state. These were people I met in the course of my work. And every single one of them became a person of value. And for me, relationship has been everything for me. And in the past 1 year as well, I've even deepened, what it is about relationship for me. And we've been able to create, network of friends, been able to create, deeper relationships that even our children, understand the system of being able to build relationships, of being able to, tap into, people, tap into people generally. Social network. And I realized that because of social network, we've been able to host the biggest parenting conference still in the world today.
Still in the
online.
world.
And we're able to access people from all over the world.
All over the world.
All over the world. I've met people online that have been able to meet, in real life. Somebody like Celia Kibla that, has become a friend, the family. I've been able to meet her family, in the US. We met online. So the power of being able to keep relationships. I know parents in the inner circle that have become like family, that have become like friends. Meanwhile, we just met, because online. I was teaching them, So the place of relationship is very valuable to me. And the last principle will be the most important to me is the place that God plays, the role that God plays in the life that I have per time. One of the things that we hold very dear, my husband and I, is how far God has brought us, what God has actually been able to teach us over the years. So one of the things that I keep in mind is God at the center of it all. And even in all of the things that I've been able to achieve, it goes back to how God has actually inspired me. There's something that Pastor Siri would tell me every time. He says some things are taught, some things are caught. He said, when you look at this parenting message, you caught it. Nobody taught you. And when he says it, I think about it, I'm like, yes. So some things I'm able to share, they just come to me. I was telling someone that if you hear the quote, parenting is not about tips and hacks, it's about the process and you must commit to it. I told the person, I said it was me. Nobody else have said it because I heard it myself. So when you get to that place where you understand how God deals with you, when you understand, the value system. So one of my biggest value system is Christianity is at the core. I don't come to a place and I say remove Christianity and let us just do it. Just keep God aside. I don't. So for every time where you see me, there's a God in the conversation. That's who I am. A Christian. People have asked me, why do you teach with biblical principles? That's who I am. So if I'm going to coach you, you will know that I'm going to be coaching you from the principles of the Bible. That's who I am. All right. So that will be the values.
Amazing.
All right.
My favorite of it being, it's not that hard. Thank you so much. My next question is, how do you stay committed? If there's ever anyone that I've seen in my life that's committed and consistent, it will be you, Wendy Ologe. How do you stay committed and consistent with the work you do?
One of the things that have helped me in consistency is having a very huge fan base, not fan as per people, fan base as per the governor, my friends, my sisters. So sometimes I even, something happens, you just see, one of my friends call me up and say, you're just doing amazing. And I say, these are people who see me daily. These are people who know what I put in. These are people who will easily say to the world, no, she's not doing what it is that she's practicing. But these are people who understand what I do. So for them to validate every point in time, my husband wakes up sometimes and he says to me, you're a savior to this nation, you're a savior to this generation, and that keeps me going. So I don't even need someone outside to tell me that. And for every day I wake up, I tell myself, if I don't do this, a generation might perish. So I do it anyway. So I don't have a choice. Even when I get tired, I look back and I say, even Moses was tired at some point, but Moses knew that if he didn't do what he did, that the children of Israel won't be saved from the big place of Egypt. So that's one of the things that actually keeps me, committed and consistent.
Oh, wow. Okay, so what 3 things would you advise someone who would like to reinvent to start doing? Because you've reinvented, like you said, you mentioned earlier about how NK told you that in the last 1 year you changed. And this 3.7 is an entirely different version of Wendy Ologe. So someone who wants to reinvent, what do you advise?
What I advise someone who wants to reinvent is be very cautious of your association.
Number 1.
The Bible says that the congregation of fools I will destroy. The congregation of wise people I will make wise. Your association is your biggest life changer, especially when it comes to reinventing yourself. So if you must reinvent yourself, change or review your association.
Yes.
I like the way my friends and I reviewed the story of the paralytic man. That's our favorite friendship story.
Favorite story.
And then when we talk about it, we say, don't just be the friend of the paralytic man, be the paralytic man as well. Whatever it is that made that paralytic man to attract friends who will throw him from the roof.
This man must leave.
That guy must have been an amazing friend.
Apparently.
So in reinventing yourself, you first of all will think, how do I, bring these people? How do I create a valuable system? However, the second thing I would say that you need to begin to make yourself a person of value. How do you do that? You need to begin to read. You need to begin to, not do things the way you have always done it. I saw a quote that in the next 5 years, you will remain who you are, apart from the books you read and the people you meet. They are two determining factors.
I agree.
Of what happens to you when it comes to reinvention.
I agree.
If not, you will be 30, 31, 40, 42. You will remain the same person. Nothing changes. Nothing. But the moment you look at yourself, you look at the books you're reading, what the people you're connecting with. Because I like the way Bishop Oyedepo says it. Says wisdom is in the things that others know that you do not know. That's what wisdom is. Wisdom is not in yourself because you're limited by yourself. So when you stay within yourself, you're going to be limited. You are never going to actually be able to improve. All right. So, and the last one that I would say, to you looking to reinvent yourself is find who you are. The place of self-awareness is the biggest knowledge bank ever. The moment you find who you are, you will stop staying in relationships that don't make you. You will stop being in places where you're talked down. You will stop being in places where you're dishonored. You will begin to look at yourself like a king. And when you do, things will actually change really. You look at yourself differently. You begin to like you. That's the word. You begin to like you. And the moment you begin to like, it comes from a place of self-awareness. An extreme, self, knowing who you are, especially knowing you are in Christ. What has God called me to do? What is my purpose for being here? By the time I was turning 30, I told God, I said, I want to leave my feet. I want to leave my name in the sands of time.
And you're doing that.
And I said that I want, by the time I turn 40, when you hear Wendy Ologe, you would understand that there's really, impact. So I wanted to be a person of impact. And I didn't stop by wishing it. I started to work it. I started to work it intentionally. So yes, that would be my advice.
Oh, wow. So every time you speak, all of your wisdom. So for everyone out there listening, you want to reinvent yourself, watch the relationship you build, what the book you read, and the place of self-awareness is key. So talking about books, what top 3 books will you advise anyone who wants a life upgrade to read?
Interestingly, because I'm a book junkie,
I
might not be able to say this is the first thing you need to read, or this is how you're going to do to find you and all of that. But I think the first thing you should read is the book by Tim Lahaye that talks about why you act the way you do. It gives you insight
into who you are, talking about self-awareness.
It gives you insight into why you are even behaving the way you are behaving. And it gives you insight, into understanding you as a person. And one of the books that I would advise that you read would be, I'm trying to remember the name, is by James someone. It's a book that I read. It's a book that I read in 45 minutes. All right. Yes. It's like
really. How many pages?
Why you think? I'm trying to remember it. If I do, I'm going to share it. Something like you are who you think
you are.
Something of that nature. Yes. As a man thinketh.
Background.
That's it. As a man thinketh.
That's who he is.
That book changed my life. In 45 minutes, I didn't stand up from my seat. I read it straight up and I caught fire. As a man thinketh. I can't forget. That's one book that I would recommend anybody to see.
Why you act the way you do as a man thinketh. And number 3?
Number 3 will be Connect to Correct.
Yes, I was waiting for that. I was hoping you to be number 1.
Connect to Correct. Even though I wrote Connect to Correct, Connect to Correct was divinely inspired. My husband read it after. I'm
actually looking at my own. Right.
My husband read it after I wrote it, when I was afraid that I was not going to publish it. He finished reading it. He looked at me. He turned again. He says, "Is this my wife? Did you write this or did you copy it from somewhere?" I said, "What happened?" And he said, "I need you to read it again." I read it. I couldn't recognize that I wrote it.
I know that feeling.
Because it was completely inspired by the Holy Spirit. And Joy, just like when I was reading your book, Finding Joy. Oh, by the way, Joy wrote a book about her journey into widowhood. And when I was reading the book, Finding Joy, I didn't feel like it was a story I've heard. I read it in 1 hour. I didn't stand up, and I read it, even though you're someone close to me. I can't find words to explain what happened in that book.
Oh, wow.
So when you are inspired, it hits a different, especially when you scout and not when it's taught. It hits a different note. So if you're a parent listening to me, even if you're not a parent, Connect to Correct is one book that gives you one awareness that sparks you up, into too many things. We were reviewing it again in level 1 in the inner circle this year, and I was like, whoa, all these things are inside this book. I couldn't even believe it. So yes, Connect to Correct will be my next book.
Connect to Correct, you need to read it before you even become a parent.
I agree.
For me, Wendy, I feel that parenting should be something that is taught during counseling before couples get married. Do you really want to have kids? How many do you want to have?
Do you know the implication of having a child?
I know what you always say, that whoever said that having a child will not change your life,
that person lied to you.
All right, Wendy Ologe, it's your birth month. It's the month of March. It's the month of the International Women's Day. Please, in the spirit of the International Women's Month, how would you advise women to break bias?
One of the things that I would say to women is, don't live the experiences of other people. One of the reasons why we say things like wemen can be friends, women cannot, is the experiences of other women we've heard. We need to create our own narrative. And it's one of the things I have fought to recreate. So when people say you can't be friends with women, I say it's a lie, it's not true. And I've been able to create that bias. So
break it.
When we talk about creating, the bias or breaking the bias, starts with us. Starts with the things we internally has assimilated from our mothers over the years. It starts with the things, that value system that we have imbibed that is not even ours, that we cannot even buy. All right. It starts with the things that we've been told that is not our story. It starts with the things that are not our experiences that we are living. Many of us are living the experiences of our parents. You ask them, why don't you have a friend? You say, it's because my mother said to me the friend betrayed her. That's your mother's experiences and not yours. Yet you're living it in your time. So which is where the real, issue is. So one of the things I would say about breaking bias is start with you. Start with you and create you. Reinventing you will also teach you a lot about what it is that I'm talking about.
Oh wow, women break the bias. Women can be friends.
Yes,
women can build valuable relationships.
And there's something about building relationships with your kind. It is different. So when I see women who say I can't be friends with my fellow women, they are this, they are that, I'm wondering. Like Pastor Ezekiel said, are you possessed? I'm wondering what's wrong. It's because we don't even understand what valuable relationship should be. That's one of the reasons why we teach friendship in the inner circle. We teach it as a class.
Intentionally.
How to actually create intentional friendship. How to help your children understand how to create these networks in a good way. So yes, very key.
You know, there's something I always say, that you never know you need a bouquet of friends as a woman
until
something life-changing happens to you.
Talk about it.
Until something life-changing
Joy
happens to you.
is a witness. I remember anytime I look at it, somebody told me I don't need friends. I said, wait until maybe you lose a husband, and then it shows you exactly what it means. When Joy lost her husband, I still remember, and I look back today. We say in our circle that even if anybody loses a husband in our circle today, you can't feel it the way it hit us the last time. It's not like we're praying it happens, but it does happen, and then we have a system already.
God forbid, it's not a life strategy.
No, it's not. It's not. And until something happens to you, that's when you realize that you actually need people.
Yes, I remember on that day, if I didn't have you people, with the work I do with widows, I see some of them losing who they are. That's because they don't have friends like you, Wendy Ologe. Think about it. They don't have valuable relationships, and so there's a breakdown.
Total breakdown.
People
shut down
can
pull
sometimes.
You and say no,
you can't go there.
You can't go there. My friends will tell you you can't move.
You can't be foolish.
You can't be foolish at 40.
Okay, so how do people actually build life transforming networks? I know a lot of people see you, they see your network, they see the valuable relationships you have, and they are wondering, how can I build transforming network?
Bring value to the table.
Background.
That's it. A lot of us are looking for value in other people, but
that you don't have.
Bring it that you don't have. You can't give what you don't have. You need to go and build value and then bring it. When you bring it, I will now say, okay, there's something you have that I'm looking for.
No.
So since I'm looking for something that you have, then I can now. So go and build. You become a person of value, and then start from there. That's it. All the networks that I've built over the years is about value. It's about being a person of value. So everybody wants to connect with me because I'm a person of value.
Yeah.
So it is the value that you create. That's what is going to bring people to actually be able to, come to you, or you come to them, and then, or they want you to actually create, systems that work.
Oh, wow. Before you leave us today, what is your last word to anyone who would love to experience a life upgrade?
My last word. Start now.
Now!
No other time. The best time to plant a tree was yesterday. The next best time will be now. Don't wait. Just start.
Oh, it's been an interesting show today, and I'm so excited to be the Wendy Ologe. You're my guest, Wendy Ologe.
Yeah.
Oh wow, this is still Relationship Bites with Wendy Ologe. So on this session, we have the quick fire questions. I remember when you asked me these questions, and I was just So you have, in less than 5 seconds, I need you to please answer all of these questions. So who's your hobby?
The governor.
Favorite food?
I don't even know. That would be okwa. Okwa is a local breadfruit. It's a local delicacy in Igbo land. So that would be my favorite food, actually.
All right. Present book you're reading?
I'm currently reading The Spiritual Quotient by Vandal. Yes. How to develop in a spiritual quotient. The name is Spiritual Quotient. Yes, that's the name of the book.
Last movie you watched?
That was I'm trying to remember.
Did you watch it together?
Yes, I watched it with Governor 2 days ago. Trying to remember. I can't. Red. Yes, that's the movie.
Current podcast you're listening to?
Current podcast I'm listening to Stripe. Stripe Talk with Simi Lolua. I was actually interviewed there on how to build intentional friendship networks, and I listened to other ones. It was mind-blowing. That's actually the current podcast I'm listening to. I listened to it today.
Current music you absolutely love?
That will be Chike.
Running. Of course, it's your anniversary. I'm not surprised. What would you say to your young 18-year-old self?
My young 18-year-old self, he didn't do bad. At 18, my young 18-year-old self would be in year 2. If I knew what I know today, I would have loved to actually be able to find myself earlier than I did. At 18, I had a bit of understanding. So, young Wendy Ologe, I wish you found yourself before when you found yourself. But hey, you didn't do badly at all. So yes.
Hey, you didn't do badly at all. And this brings us to the end of Relationship Bites with Wendy Ologe. It's been a privilege for me to be the host of this show. Okay, I've had a great time today. So, Wendy Ologe, last word before I let you go.
Last word will be intentional. And thank you so much, Joy.
Word.
It is so amazing. It's been an amazing time with you. Of course, Joy is a whole vibe. Yeah. Have you ever met Joy? And I am going to be, talking about, Joy's books sometime in one of I'm going to bring Joy back to this, podcast to interview her about her book. Oh, you need to read that book.
Finding Joy.
Oh, you need to read it. And
I think for who no get joy.
And yet we actually need to, so thank you so much, Joy. It's been such an amazing time. Thank you so much for the vibes that you bring.
I know. You're welcome.
Thank you. So yes, this is Relationship Bites with Wendy Ologe.
Signing out.
It's one day to the Understanding Your Child's Learning Style course already, and we have over 310 parents on board. Do you want to understand how to use your child's learning style to modify their behavior and learning experience? Then this course is for you. To register for the Understanding Your Child's Learning Style course, check out any of our Facebook pages, our Instagram page at The Intentional Parents for all the details, or send a WhatsApp chat to 0812-968-7040 and all the details you need will be given to you. See you in class.
Thank you for listening to Relationship Bites with Wendy Ologe podcast today, where we share real conversations of diverse relationships and why they are important to human beings. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to listen to more, please subscribe to the Relationship Bites with Wendy Ologe on your preferred podcast player. Share this with others, your friends and family. Post about us on social media. Leave us a rating or a review. To keep up with our conversations online, you can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook, Podcast by Wendy Ologe, or follow my personal page at Wendy Ologe, both on Facebook and also on Instagram. You can also catch my videos on YouTube, Wendy Ologe. You can also follow us on our Parenting Academy, where I share about parenting relationships, the intentional parent. You want to learn more about us? You can simply search us out on www.wendyologe.com, or you can email us, podcastbywendyologe@gmail.com. Thank you again, and catch you next time.